कौन सी लैंग्वेज में आप प्रेफर? ओके, everybody is comfortable in English also, Hindi also, any other language? I don't know because, so either Hindi and English only. हिंदी ठीक है, हिंदी इंग्लिश बाइलिंगुअल करेंगे, ठीक है, फाइन, ओके. So we are starting today's class, so I'll start with introducing myself because you don't know me and I don't want anybody to talk please in the class at the here. Yeah. So my name is Sanchita Singh. I am an assistant professor. I am teaching in OP Jindal University and I've done my PhD in psychology from University of Delhi and I'm here to teach you brain and behavior today, okay. So I would like to start today's class by asking you all that why do you think it is important for us to study? हमें brain और behavior पढ़ने की ज़रूरत क्या है? आप क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं psychology में? Any idea? Know ourself. So do we get to know about ourself or our body?
What we behave like for what?
Okay.
Why we behave a certain way and how it affects us like that.
Is what we will study in biopsychology.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Structural and functional unit of mind. We need to study that.
We are trying to understand structural and functional unit of mind. Okay. What else? Students at the end, you can come forward. Can sit here. I like to talk, I like to interact in the class. It's not going to be one way. Any other person? क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं बायोलॉजी साइकोलॉजी में? बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स मुझसे पूछते हैं कि ये क्यों पढ़ा रहे हो आप? It's so difficult. Why are you teaching us? Why it's important? So like you all have said to some parts and bits, why it is important? Because we need to understand our body, right? How will you understand the mental processes if you don't know how brain is formed, right? Because a lot of time when we talk about psychology, human behavior, it is too much interlinked with the body, right? Your behavior doesn't come in isolation, it comes with the body too, right? So for instance, when maybe I had an accident and a part of brain is injured now and my behavioral, I can see my behavioral changes. So until I don't understand that which part of my brain is injured, which is causing me to become more aggressive, how will I understand an individual behavior? Hence it becomes very important for us to understand biology, okay. So that's why we are studying this, understood? Any questions? So today we are going to talk about brain and behavior. And as you can see, if you don't understand, so you can keep asking me questions in the middle also. Like I said, I like to have an interactive class. So today we are going to cover these parts. Content of today's class is going to be, and I like you to please write notes when I am teaching because it's a little tough. There are many parts of brain that we are going to study today. So when you will write, you will understand more, okay. So please write with me. These are the things that we are going to cover and I have taken the portion from your book only. So it's everything in your book, from there I have taken. The parts that we are going to cover today in the class are called central nervous system, which entails, like I said, central nervous system क्या consist करता है? Brain and spinal cord. So that is what we are going to cover, and how do we biologically assess these parts also. That's what we are going to cover today in the class. Okay. So we'll begin with how the brain is developed, okay. So when a human fetus, a small baby or a fetus is in the womb of a mother, after 18 days after conception, brain start developing. So when a mother conceives a baby, what happens? Only after 18 days, the brain starts forming. Like you can see, so initially this is how the baby looks like, and that's how it keeps developing, okay. 21st day is where the neural tube is formed, which contain the brain and a spinal cord. So a tube is being formed on a 21st day, and there where the formation of brain and a spinal cord starts forming in an individual, in a baby, in a fetus. 28th day is where now the tissues are developing, and that's how, you know, tissues are formulating, and then forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, these are 3 brain which starts developing, you know, how the brain starts developing. Yeah, subsections of the brain. We will be studying all this in detail. I am just telling that how it starts developing. Okay. After that, the brain start developing more, and the structures are getting more visible. Okay. And the human, the brain weight is approximately 1400 grams, which is built up of billions of cells. Billions of cells is where the brain is built up of, and when the baby is born, it's approximately 1400 grams the weight of the brain is. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So like I said, we have central nervous system and we have nervous system too. Central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord, and nervous system consists of 2 types of system, which is called central nervous system and peripheral. Okay? And today we are going to cover central nervous system only. So nervous system 2 type, peripheral and central. Today we are going to cover central, which entails brain and spinal cord. Peripheral we will not do today. Okay? Okay. So the whole central nervous system which consists of, like I said, I keep saying that so that you remember, is consist of brain and spinal cord. It is built up of protective tissues. So there are some kind of protective tissues that are there which are protecting your nervous system. Okay? And what are this protective layer is called? These are different, like you can see on the PPT. ये आपके ब्रेन में प्रोटेक्शन के लिए एक लेयर्स होती हैं. हमारे ब्रेन में लेयर्स होती हैं जो कि हमारे ब्रेन और स्पाइनल कॉर्ड को प्रोटेक्ट करती हैं. अगर कोई इंजरी होती है तो एकदम से आपके ब्रेन और स्पाइनल कॉर्ड को शॉक ना लगे, इसलिए बहुत सारी लेयर्स से बनता है ये सिस्टम. एंड ये लेयर्स क्या है? इट इज़ नोन एज ड्यूरा, आर्केनॉइड एंड पिया मैटर. So these are the 3 layers that is what the whole your brain and spinal cord is made from. It's also called as sheaths. Okay, menings also it is known as. So these are the 3 layers it is made up of. Okay, this is we need to know. Now first layer is called outer layer. सबसे outer layer क्या होती है? उसे कहते हैं dura, which is tough and thick layer inside our body it is made up of. Second is arachnoid membrane, which is the middle layer, which is a little soft and spongy, as you can see. Can you see? And then is pia mater, which is the innermost layer. So it is closest to our brain and our spinal cord, which is the innermost. Okay, and it is closely attached to the brain and spinal cord. And further, there is surfaces of convulsions. Okay, we will talk about that later. So we are just trying to understand that how this system is built in a manner that it is protected. Huh? So as we just heard, what is the outermost layer we spoke about? Outermost. Dura. Yes, very good. Second? And third is? So between the 2, which is called, as you can see, pia mater and arachnoid membrane, there is a cerebrospinal fluid, which is also known as CSF. Have you heard about this fluid? CFS कहीं तो पढ़ा होगा, I am sure. Yeah. So between these 2 thick layers, there is this fluid which exists. Now what is why this fluid is there? Because अगर again कोई shock लगता है, this fluid help us to sustain that shock, so that it doesn't go to the inner layer and doesn't further impact your spinal cord and brain. So there is this fluid that is kept, which keeps it a little resistant to shock and protects the system. So that is called CSF. Clear? Okay. Now we are going to the first part of our central nervous system, which is brain. Now today we will talk about brain, very important brain. Is it important? क्या हो गया है? ये पोर्शन सबके लिए कवर हो चुका है? No? Okay. You all have covered this portion? Okay, so it's a revision class. Okay, so I'll ask you more questions. Let's see how much you remember maybe. Okay. How many of you have not learned this? Okay, so there are few percentage of students who have not learned. So I'm expecting the ones who have not raised hands to answer and maybe come across, and let's see how much you remember. So our brain consists of 3 parts, which is called forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, this is what the brain consists of, and these are the subdivisions that we are going to study, and I don't want anybody to please speak. Yeah. So this is forebrain. Where is our forebrain? When I move there, it stops. Forebrain is our, where is forebrain in your brain? Front. And where is our midbrain?
It is above the temporal.
Center of the brain. And where is our forebrain? Where is our hindbrain? At the back. Yes, very good. So there where it is, so forebrain is in the front, midbrain, as it is saying mid, it is in the middle of the brain, and hindbrain is back. It's called hindbrain or hindbrain, whatever, however you want to pronounce. So forebrain consists of these structure, which is called cerebrum, thalamus and hypothalamus. Okay, these are some parts, and we will talk about this and understand what are their functionality. Then is our midbrain, and then is our hindbrain, which consists of pons, medulla and cerebellum. Okay, so we will talk about these shortly. This is our midbrain. Just wanted to show you the structure. So it's in the middle of your brain. Okay, yeah. So this is a very important subdivision of brain, and you should make it in your copy and should know, because this is all what we are going to talk about today in the class. So first is our brain, which consists of, like we just mentioned, it's forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. I have taken this from your book only, so you'll find it. Okay. So forebrain consists of telecephalon, dicephalon. Telecephalon has 3 parts called basal ganglia, limbic system and cerebral cortex. Dicephalon has 2 parts called hypothalamus and thalamus. Midbrain has tectum and tegmentum. Hindbrain has 2 parts, which is called metencephalon and myelencephalon, and metencephalon is built up of cerebellum and pons. Okay. Now we will understand what are these parts and why it is important. Yeah. First we will start with forebrain. As you saw, today we will start with this part. Okay. So in forebrain we are going to cover telecephalon and dicephalon today, and we are starting from here, forebrain. Forebrain has 2 parts, like I mentioned, telecephalon and dicephalon. So telecephalon is built up of cerebral hemisphere, okay, and it has some parts like basal ganglia, limbic system, cerebral cortex. Dicephalon has thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus, subthalamus. Basically, if we understand why forebrain is important, it is important for cognitive activities. It is very important for sensory and associative function and voluntary motor activities. So if a patient comes to you and say that I am not able to remember anything, मुझे याद नहीं रहता है कुछ, ठीक है, and the patient is coming to you and saying कि मैं भूल जाती हूँ, मुझे कुछ भी नहीं याद रहता, मैम मैं क्या करूँ, and coming for a counseling for instance, and had an accident. Now you can think that maybe in the accident, if the brain was injured, maybe the forebrain was injured, and maybe my client needs to go to a physician and get it checked. as to what is happening in the brain, is why the client is not able to remember things. That's how we are correlating psychology with the brain aspect. If you don't know which part of a brain is responsible, or for that matter, is brain actually responsible for memory, if you don't know, how will you guide your client? You will say, I'll counsel. हम याद करेंगे बैठ के, right? Will that work? No. We need to understand which part of a brain, why it is, where I have to send my client, what could have gone wrong, right? For that we need to understand. So this is what forebrain is responsible for. Let's talk about telecephalon first. Okay? So telecephalon, like I mentioned, is made up of cerebral hemisphere and cerebral cortex. I know it's very heavy words and terminologies, but when we'll understand each of these terms, and we'll understand in functioning, then you will feel a little relaxed. अभी भी कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा होगा. Of course, जिनकी दूसरी क्लास है उन्हें तो I'm expecting आ रहा हो, लेकिन the ones who are studying for the first time, I can understand biology can be very heavy on us because you are from arts background, never studied as such. But what we need to remember, part of a brain and its functionality, that's all. Okay? Why it is important to remember that? Because you need to know the function. Okay? Like I just gave you an example. So we are talking about now cerebral cortex, which is where forebrain and telecephalon. Very good. So forebrain, first brain, then forebrain, then telecephalon, cerebral cortex we are going to talk about. Okay? Cerebral cortex have some, we'll understand the structure. So it is made up of these are some kind of grooves it is made up of. So there is sulci and fissures, there are some grooves that are there, like it's like this, you must have seen the diagram of a brain in your books, right? This is what it is made up of. These are called grooves, okay? There are different kind of grooves are there in the brain. Why do you think these grooves are present in the brain? Again, protection, right? This is all just to protect your brain from any injury, okay? So these are grooves that are present, and the cortex, the surface of the cortex is approximately 2360 centimeters square and 3 millimeter thick it is, okay? So there cell bodies are present in the interior cell. So we are talking about cerebral cortex. There are two parts of cerebral cortex. We are talking about the parts as in the structure, how it is built up of. So the exterior or cerebral cortex, there is exterior part of it and there is interior part of it. Exterior part of it is a grey matter. Have you heard about grey matter? No, ma'am? Who said yes? What you have heard about grey matter?
There are some axons that give a grey color, greyish brown color to the brain, to the groove. So that's why it is called grey matter.
And what is white matter?
When it is it protects the mind, and it gives whitish color. So that's why it is called white matter.
Yeah, exactly like she said. What's your name? Chavi, very good, Chavi. So like Chavi said, there is exterior part of this cerebral cortex which is greyish brown in color because it's built up of axon and it is grey, it gives a color, grey color to it, and there is internal beneath part of it in the cerebral cortex which is called white matter. It is made up of myelin, okay, and it gives a white texture to it, okay. So a lot of time we study in psychology, some of the researchers talks about how meditation help us to increase the grey matter, okay. So why it is important to increase the grey matter? Because then it enhances your cognitive capacities. If you don't know what is grey matter and why it is important, how will you study and understand these studies, right? So hence it is important. Why I keep telling you why it is important to study brain and behavior, because when I was a student nobody explained me and I felt that it's maybe not important. So hence I keep explaining that why it is important, try to relate it to psychology also. Now we are talking about, what we are talking about? What we are talking about? Cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is divided into two parts, which is called left and right cerebral cortex. Okay. Anybody know what is left and right cerebral cortex? Hemisphere. So cortex is there, and this is divided into two brain parts, left and right. You must have heard generally people talking about that I am a right brain. My right brain is more functioning. No, my left brain is more functioning. And there are some biased thinking also that for female right brain is more stronger, for male it is left brain which is more stronger. Have you heard these statements? No. If you have not, maybe you are listening for the first time. So our cortex is divided into two hemispheres, left and right. So it is being said that all this left and right have certain activities which is allocated. So left look after some activities, right look after some activity. So left brain is responsible for comprehension. मैं आपसे बात कर रही हूँ, मैं आपको समझा रही हूँ, आप कुछ समझ पा रहे हैं, आई होप कुछ समझ पा रहे हैं, तो क्या है आपका कॉम्प्रीहेंशन ठीक है, समझ आ रहा है, दैट इज कॉल्ड कॉम्प्रीहेंशन, लुक आफ्टर बाय लेफ्ट ब्रेन. देन how do we understand mathematical problem writing? So if somebody have a problem while writing, there is a possibility their left brain is not functioning well. There is some problem in the left brain, part of the brain. Left hemisphere is damaged or some problem is there. So this is the functionality of the left brain. What is the functionality of the right brain? Right brain is responsible for imagination, intuitive thinking, okay? People who are musicians, they use right brain more, okay? Some holistic kind of people who are painters use right brain. So some people are very bad with, drawing, painting. For instance, I am very bad with it. So maybe my right brain is not that strong as somebody who's a painter, because their right hemisphere is more functional. That's how they're able to imagine so much, and I'm not able to imagine at all, right? So these are the functionality divided to different hemisphere, which is left and right. Clear? Okay. So maybe after today's class you see which hemisphere you think you are dominating at, what is your dominated hemisphere, and you can say I'm a right brain person or I'm a left brain person more, Now we are talking about lobes, which are also part of cerebral cortex. So we spoke about in cerebral cortex, we spoke about hemisphere. What else we spoke about? Grooves we spoke about, and grey matter, white matter, very good. Now we are coming to different lobes in our cerebral cortex. I keep reminding you what we are saying so that you are on track and you are with me. You're not lost and you're like, कहाँ आ गए हम? अभी तो forebrain पढ़ रहे थे, अभी hindbrain पे कहाँ से आ गए? Okay. So there are four lobes that are there. First is frontal, temporal, occipital, and parietal. Okay. Frontal lobe is located, as the word say, front. It's in the front of the brain. So in our cerebral cortex, in our forebrain also there is front and all. So frontal, what is the function of frontal lobe? It involves in executive functioning. What is executive functioning? Any kind of performance that you are doing. Execute कर रहे हैं कुछ task. Okay? जैसे for instance, I am doing executive functioning. When I am going here, changing the slide, I am talking to you, interacting with you, moving ahead, right? So there is some kind of performance also I am doing, So there is some executive functioning where there is attention is involved, my control, my movement control is involved. अगर मेरा frontal lobe is damaged, so there is a possibility that I am not able to coordinate. मतलब मैं move साथ में कर रही हूँ, बोल भी रही हूँ, पढ़ा भी रही हूँ, slide भी change कर रही हूँ. So much of things that are happening in my forebrain, and I am coordinating all of these well. But if my forebrain and in that frontal lobe is damaged or has some problem, I will not be able to manage all these things together. Okay, so that is what frontal lobe is responsible for. Temporal lobe is located on the side of the brain and above our ear. So above our ear would mean that what it is responsible for? Speech. Okay, so it is responsible for speech production. If somebody stutters a lot, there are people who stutter, बोल नहीं पाते हैं ठीक से, बोलने पे हिचकिचाना तो वो शाइनेस होगी, लेकिन हाँ 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 दिक्कत होती है बोलने में, फॉर्मल वर्ड नहीं बोल पा रहे हैं या सेंटेंसेस फॉर्मुलेट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, राइट. सो इन दैट स्पीच प्रोडक्शन में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. प्रोडक्शन, कॉम्प्रीहेंशन मतलब मैं बोल गई लेकिन आपको समझ ही नहीं आया मैंने क्या बोला, कॉम्प्रीहेंड नहीं कर पाए, समझ नहीं पाए. तो ये वाला चीज़ टेम्पोरल लोब देखता है. ओके, दैट इज टेकन केयर बाय टेम्पोरल लोब. नेक्स्ट इज ऑसिपिटल. It is located at the back of our brain and it is responsible for visual perception. Okay, so I am able to see things and make sense of it. Okay, so visual perception is occipital lobe, and parietal lobe is located behind the frontal lobe and above the temporal lobe. I will just show you the picture, you will understand. It is responsible for touch, taste, temperature, all these things. Sensory integration happen in parietal lobe. अगर मेरा parietal lobe में problem है तो अगर if I have a coin in my pant, okay, and I am trying to, we get to see, we forget, right. अगर if I have, for example, I have kept a key in my pocket and I felt that I have left it somewhere, so I touch only my pocket and see हाँ है. You don't have to take it out to see कि अच्छा key है क्या. You touch it and you know it. If somebody's parietal lobe is damaged, they touch and they don't understand. So they don't understand the sensations. Okay, even though they are touching, they will not know. They mentally they will not be able to comprehend that sensation. They have to take it out and see कि okay ये key है, okay, then it is a key. Fine. So that just few example I am giving for you to understand. That's called parietal lobe. No. Sensation, your sensations are hampered ना. Touch समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है आपको.
Like I am touching this pen and I am not able to comprehend.
No.
Without seeing.
No. What is happening? Yeah. So this is where all lobes are there: frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. Understood? Frontal is responsible for cognitive processes. Parietal हाँ. स्पीच के लिए कौन सा रिस्पॉन्सिबल है? Yeah, and occipital? Very good. All are very intelligent. Okay. Yeah. So this is some. Yeah.
Can you tell me what is parietal lobe damage? Like in what type of disease or like psychological damage parietal lobe?
Parietal lobe. There is. I'll just go back to the slide. So parietal lobe, like it says sensation. So in any kind of mental health concern, for instance, I am not, so in COVID what was happening? People were not able to smell things, okay, and they were not able to taste also. Taste and smell was absent, lost. Now because of that, many people were having mental health concern. हमें टेस्ट ही नहीं आ रहा है, हमें स्मेल ही नहीं आ रही है, हम क्या खा रहे हैं हमें पता. एंड द पर्सन हु वर फूडी, राइट, हमें बटर चिकन पसंद है लेकिन खा रहे हैं, टेस्ट ही नहीं आ रहा है, स्मेल भी नहीं आ रही है, मज़ा ही नहीं आ रहा है. एंड यू इमेजिन दैट स्टिंग फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ योर लाइफ. It's not for a month, but it is for till the time you die, it is going to be there, somebody tell you. Do you think you will have mental health concern? You will have anxiety, you might have depression, you will feel low, not able to smell and taste. So there is no one disorder which is allocated to, but this can impact my mental health. Understood your, yeah? Okay. So these are some of the description of functionality which we just discussed. Visual, of course, it is located at the back of the brain and upper. So it's primary visual cortex is responsible for visual. Primary auditory is responsible for auditory, as it mentions. Primary somatosensory cortex is responsible for all the sensations, as it says. Primary motor is your movement. So all these areas are not separated so much but are connected. Okay, they are also connected, is where we are saying associative areas. How do they connect with each other? Okay, and these we will study later. Okay, now we are talking about limbic system. Limbic system is a part of, is it a part of cerebral cortex or it is a part of telecephalon? It's a, I'll show you again. We'll go back to the slide. So limbic system is, now we have covered cerebral cortex. It's done. Now we are coming to another part in telecephalon which is called limbic system. Clear? It's not a part of cerebral cortex, it's another structure in our telecephalon which is called limbic system. Now we'll talk about that. Limbic system. Very interesting, a very amazing part in our brain. It is responsible for, limbic system have some subparts which we will talk about. It's also a very big system in our brain. Thalamic, amygdala, hippocampus, all these parts are there. So limbic system overall, generally it is responsible for all the kind of emotions that you have, motivation to do. Any motivation when we talk about, it also have emotion, right? Do you think motivation can be without any emotion? You get up today, you have come for the class, some kind of motivation is there. Otherwise you can't come. There is some kind of emotion is there behind that. So limbic system is responsible for regulating our emotion, motivation, fear, anger, hunger, sexual behavior, all this is regulated by limbic system. If your limbic system is hampered, there are people who does not feel emotions. So there is a possibility their limbic system is damaged or have some problem there. Okay, is where they are not able to at all feel emotion even if they try. Okay. Now let's understand the subparts in limbic system. First is amygdala. Amygdala is a almond shaped structure located deep in the deep parts of temporal lobe. Okay. It is responsible for, like I said, emotional center it is, and for any kind of fear conditioning. In learning you have heard about conditioning?
Yes.
Pavlov's experiment, what happens?
Ma'am, he, every time he gave food to the dog, he also rang a bell. And after many of attempts, he only rang the bell and the saliva was there.
Yeah.
So it was about association between conditioned stimulus and unconditioned.
Yeah. So there is this fear, I will get electric shock and then I have to move. Electric shock was given? No.
It was given to the rat.
Yeah. Another experiment. Yes. B.F. Skinner, a rat where the electric shock was given and then the rat used to move around and then press the palate and the food will come. Was that?
एक बटन था और food का.
So we have learned about conditioning earlier, right? So conditioning also happens through amygdala, fear conditioning. For instance, any one of you have any kind of fear? We have a lot of fears. हाँ? किस चीज़ का fear? Light off कर दो. Height. Water, anybody have water fear? Yeah. No, not. Anybody have dog fear? Dog. Fear of a dog. Yeah. Yeah. Lizard? Most of us. I too have. So, all this is conditioning, right? You have fear with the dog, must have some experience bad with the dog. तभी है, right? हाँ. So, you have developed that conditioning. Conditioning is happening because you saw or you have felt that. Maybe a dog has bit you, the conditioning has happened, now you have developed the fear. This will happen through amygdala, fear conditioning. अगर amygdala functional नहीं है तो आपकी fear conditioning ही नहीं होगी. Okay? Other thing is fear, anger, violence, anxiety, all is being taken care by amygdala. Okay? So if somebody is too angry, you can say it feels like your amygdala is too functional. You know? It's not an appropriate word to say, but just for fun, yeah. That's how at least you will remember that which brain part and what is its functionality. Second is hippocampus. Hippocampus is responsible for memory, very important. Short term memory, movies देखी हैं? गजनी, ठीक है? तो गजनी को short term memory, of course it's not properly shown, that's not how it happens, but whatever. Now, probably Gajni, yeah. Okay, so should I wind up? Yeah. That's, so I asked, तो उन्होंने कहा कि I can continue, so I'll just wind up.
Just wind up because 11 o'clock हो गया ना. You will start there, ma'am will start here.
Okay, I'll just wind up.
Done.
Yeah. So I have to wind up. I'll just finish this, okay? So hippocampus, I was just covering that Gajni, whatever. So in that case, the short-term memory is not going to long-term memory. So the information is not further getting to long-term memory for you to remember for a longer period of time. So hippocampus is responsible for sending or making the memory for a long-term memory, okay? So if there is some problem with the memory, hippocampus might be responsible. And phonics is basically, it connects the structures. I'll just show you. So basically, this is how these structures are in the limbic system. Hippocampus, like I just mentioned, is responsible for memory functioning. Amygdala is for fear, threatening stimuli, emotions. And phonics is basically connecting hippocampus with other part of the brain. Okay, that's all about limbic system. And I don't have time to cover other parts. I think the ma'am will cover later. So we have, I'll just wind up and tell you that what we have covered today. If you go back to this slide. Yeah. So we have covered what? This, only this part we have covered. Yeah. Isme basal ganglia is still left. Okay. This much we have covered. Because of time limitation, I have to wind up. Other ma'am is waiting. So I hope you have understood little part of whatever we have, and try to use this in your day-to-day life. Also talk about it, read about it. You will always remember. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for interacting, and I really loved talking to you all. I hope you also enjoyed and learned. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Attendance, I'll speak.